Hey everybody, before we get started on this, I decided to try my hand at a little bit of merchandise for the channel, so you can check it out in the description section below. Let's get into it. Hey YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload.
What's up guys? Today I want to talk just briefly about American Horror Story 1984, and while I know we're just a couple weeks out from the season finale, and I know that we're going to be talking about this in retrospect format as well as looking forward to season 10 for the next couple months now, I just wanted to kind of put this out there. The worst thing about the season, and in fact, maybe the worst thing about American Horror Story ever, and that is the seemingly kind of out of nowhere curveball that 1984 takes place in an alternate universe to all the other stories in American Horror Story. I mean, one of the things that they've been touting ever since the 4th season of this show is that, yes, in fact, all of these seasons are connected, and at the end of the series, there's going to be some kind of, oh, I see how it all connects type of thing. Even if that was going to be small little hints throughout the entire show, kind of like the Quentin Tarantino universe, where there's all these kind of little hints with nicknames and last names and historical things that give you the impression that all of these characters are related somehow, or at least the entire universe is intertwined. But what kind of strikes me is that 1984 decides, and pretty much you saw the title, you saw the thumbnail, with Ramirez's character, the Night Stalker himself, that because of what happens to him, there's no real way of interpreting it other than just, well, right now I just guess that this is an entirely alternate universe, and in fact, Ryan Murphy has said as much. The idea that he's been stuck at Camp Redwood for the last 30 years instead of dying in 2013 and making his way to the Hotel Cortez like we saw him in season 5, it just can't add up, and it doesn't. I mean, I guess if you really wanted to stretch it as far as you could possibly go, you would have to go back to season 8 where they were trying to figure out time travel, and then just going that far back in time to Russia was able to cause some kind of ripple effect, butterfly effect, or whatever that would change history enough that everything would look somewhat similar and everything would be a little bit more connected, but just one thing like the Night Stalker being completely unable to go to the Hotel Cortez because that's not where he died now in this timeline. I guess that makes sense. The one thing that we do know, though, is when they finally did perfect the time travel in that season, they didn't go back far enough to make sure that he died anywhere else than where he said he did when we met him in season 5. Because they only went back to take out Michael and did absolutely nothing else, and it wouldn't stretch that far to put him all the way back in the 80s being killed off for the last 30 years. So really, it doesn't make any sense. And you know what? The weird thing about all of that is they did have connections to the other seasons in this season. They mentioned Briarcliff, they mentioned season 6, the house from Roanoke, and yet instead of building on those connections and making the stories consistent, they just decide to upend everything with that one little plot point that kind of does feel at the end there kind of a little overdone and also not as weighty as it might have been. Quite honestly, it was just there for the final showdown where Ramirez was going to escape and go after Bobby that would lead him away from the camp only to go back and reintroduce Margaret to begin with. And if you break it down like that, it seems like an overly convenient way of upending everything that we knew about this series and deciding out of nowhere that after 5 long years of building up and teasing fans about the connections of this broader universe of American Horror Story, just deciding, well, you know what, we had our fun with that, but really we want to tell the stories that we want to tell, and it doesn't really matter how these things are connected or whether or not this is all going to come together at the end. Now, am I being too cynical here? Probably. I know a lot of people are going to come after me in the comments, but this is honestly one of those things that's been really driving me over the last couple of years with this television show. I, along with several other fans, have been very interested to see how all of these seasons are going to connect, and the idea of a crossover that we got last season was what made it so exciting to begin with. Now, we can argue for days about whether or not that was a good season or not, or whether or not they dropped the ball with the whole crossover thing, and maybe they thought they did too, just a little bit, and that's why they decided to subtly upend the whole connection thing, where everything's taking place in a consistent universe with that little thing in 1984. But you know what, honestly, as we get further and further away from the season, as much as I like it, and I still put it in my ranking video, which you guys can see in the description section below, I will have to say that is a permanent stain on the season and why it really doesn't deserve to be in the top 3, even though, at least in my opinion, it was the best season that we've seen in a very long time for this series. Anyway, with that being said, guys, I want everyone to go down to the comment section below and tell me what you think about this. Was that the worst part of this season, or do you like the fact that it's in its own little universe and is not really that connected with the other seasons of the series? At the same time, I'm sorry for the lack of video uploads recently. I am starting a new job and just trying to rework everything as well as update my content. Maybe less content, but a lot more fun with the videos, longer videos, and just essays in general. So I hope everyone is looking forward to that. And also, guys, go down to the description section below, hit that link, and go follow me on Twitter, especially if you're one of the many people recently who has come to talk to me about potentially starting their own channel and is looking for advice and encouragement, because I am always open to talking to you guys about that as well. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. It's been real.